Let's say China.
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 China. China.
冰淇淋。早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，但是速度与激情就比冰淇淋。
Want a Sprite cranberry?
Anyways, welcome to Labra Stories. I have no insecurities about my sanity, and this is the secret propaganda of VeggieTales. Last time at Labra Stories, I talked about the evolution of VeggieTales, but in the process also uncovered their immortality, and while at first glance that sounds nice, it also posed the dilemma of needing to avoid overpopulation. As such, I suggested that the veggies chose when they wanted to die and then were humanely put down and turned into food, but there is a problem with such a solution. Let's start by giving a look at the energy index necessary to sustain a VeggieTale. The problem of determining how much energy a VeggieTale would derive from eating another veggie is surprisingly easy to solve. You see, the veggies eat meat products, so animals exist on their planet and are often seen in the show. Cows, sheep, even penguins, but these animals have their own normal appendages, which they use to manipulate their surroundings. You can see that the sheep can't open their gate and have to jump over the fence, and that the penguins use their arms to grab onto objects. This shows that animals on the VeggieTales planet are not force users and are therefore not as evolutionarily advanced as the veggies, and thus are not immortal. The animals can't talk either, indicating that as a whole they have similar lifespans to animals we are familiar with. This means that the veggies need a food source that is capable of being raised quickly and on a large scale so that they can have enough food and therefore eat just about as much as a normal human. This makes sense, despite having incredibly efficient metabolisms, constantly using the force consumes a lot of energy, so the two balance out. But let's relate it back to the problem at hand. If the veggies use energy at the same rate as a human, and we assume that other veggies would provide as many calories to another veggie as a human would to another human, then one veggie would only supply the necessary calories for about 60 days. Given how rare an occurrence a veggie choosing to die is, it wouldn't be a reliable staple food, and another veggie would be treated as a delicacy. So far all that sounds good, but there is a second issue with the system: instincts. And despite being immortal, the veggies are still a type of animal, with instincts designed to ensure their survival. As such, the veggies would have a sense of self-preservation, and while that might erode over a millennia-long existence, it wouldn't be weak enough to result in the end of an entire veggie species. And here we can recall back to the hosts of VeggieTales, Bob the Tomato and Larry the Cucumber. I previously concluded that these two were the last of their species, and as such, I must ask where the rest of the tomatoes and cucumbers went. Is it more plausible that they all chose to be turned into food at such a rate that they accidentally doomed their bloodline, or that they were hunted to near extinction? The show sometimes addresses the dilemma of greed, illustrating that veggies are prone to such a weakness, and if the flesh of another veggie is a rare and desirable item, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the veggies are hunting each other down behind the scenes. But then, what's going on in VeggieTales? What's going on? It certainly doesn't portray such a grim reality for the veggies world, and in fact it often portrays such problems to be rare. Well, the answer is of course the well-known and beloved everyday convenience, propaganda. See political endorsement? Propaganda. See a t-shirt? Propaganda. See a can of Coca-Cola? And then there is VeggieTales. To us humans, it's just a quaint, nostalgia-inducing Christian animation, but to the veggies it's so much more. It's propaganda. As is with any propaganda or information, especially of biased or misleading political nature, VeggieTales aims to teach its viewers about a new era where no longer will the more delicious veggies have to live in fear of being hunted. Let's break it down by analyzing the format of the show. Anyone who has seen VeggieTales knows that the show follows a standard formula of Bob the Tomato and Larry the Cucumber welcoming the viewer, introducing the day's problem, following the first half of a story that introduces a character dealing with said problem, a brief interlude where Larry sings a silly song, the conclusion to the story demonstrating some sort of moral, and then a return to the hosts to review said moral. At a surface level, such a format is nothing special, making your viewers feel welcomed to the show and having something to grab their attention with are excellent ways to get the audience invested, and something I'm not good at doing. The rest of the formula, however, is quite strange because Bob and Larry are trying to use the Bible, but the veggies don't have a Bible, or the Bible too, yet they claim to be teaching from it anyways. This is the biggest evidence I have that the VeggieTales show is in fact propaganda. I mean, governments cite divinity all the time, be it Gilgamesh, King Louis XIV, or Kim Jong-un. It's definitely nothing new, nor is it entirely unexpected given the context. The union of church and state, or more accurately one co-opting the other, was common during a majority of European history post-Rome, basically 5th century until sometime in the 18th century AD. The purpose of such a union was almost always for power, but whether the government wanted a unified body of belief to justify its actions or the church wanted to get the state to take certain actions, and whether either party was corrupt or not is irrelevant to this particular conversation because there is no establishment of church in VeggieTales. Yet. That is, after all, the goal of VeggieTales, to establish a church, sponsored by the government in order to unify the many races of VeggieTales, and who better to do that job than some tragic figures? Remember when I said that there was nothing special about the introduction to an episode of VeggieTales? Well, I lied. Bob and Larry are the last of their kind due to the hunting of the races, and who better to be the face of your propaganda than the victims of the travesty you're trying to oppose? Especially Larry. He's not only more popular than Bob because he's funny, but because of his relationship to the story. Bringing back Pizza Angel, Larry sometimes has the urge to order a pizza with tomato sauce, but why would VeggieTales ever even show such a scene if they wanted to oppose hunting other species? To show Larry's history. Larry used to either be part of the hunts, or at least an enjoyer of the spoilers of these hunts, and like an addict trying to stop, he still has cravings much like the residents of whatever country the veggies live in. This makes Larry not only relatable, but also a role model as he works to better himself. And then there's the rest of the show, where the problem is solved, be it by the hands of Larry Boy, someone taking a wise figure's advice, or divine intervention! Because, of course, VeggieTales is telling its viewers how to live, to trust them that this is the right path, and as long as you believe in them, everything will work out. What do the viewers of VeggieTales learn? Believe in God. But who is God?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
The real religious ideologies and practices of the veggies are unknown, but the history being presented is definitely not accurate. There's no way that the veggie history had Israel, or Egypt, Abraham, or Moses. Or do they? They don't. Well, not in reality, but they do to the growing VeggieTales church as long as the propaganda campaign is successful. And it is successful. For evidence, I present VeggieTales in the House, a show where the old regime no longer exists, and it never did exist. Larry never looked better, life has never been more perfect, and nothing is wrong. Which is obviously a lie. Larry looks like a pickle, Bob is staring into my soul, and the scallions are gone! You thought it was a coincidence that they were always being framed as the villains? But no, VeggieTales was not promoting peace for all species of veggie. Ever heard of Hitler? No, wrong German. Ever heard of Otto von Bismarck? Well, to make a long story short, a long time ago, Germany was smaller, and in fact the German people lived in several countries that neighbored each other. And so Bismarck introduced nationalism and a little war in order to unify all the countries that had German residents through blood and iron. This is what happened in VeggieTales, a country unifying itself from the residents of other countries and ignoring all those that it deemed to be alien to their new country. And that's all I have to say on the subject, a planet grasped by evolutionary forces beyond human understanding that results in the creation of the veggies.
It's heroin.
The hidden tribalistic hunting and the propaganda designed to unify some of the races. What the future holds for the VeggieTales, or what rich past they have already had, will probably never be brought to light, but I at least hope that Scallion number 2 is still okay, living his best life. Thanks for watching, and if you'll excuse me, I need to go talk to my counselor about my drug addiction.